Okay, thank you. Okay, I think my presentation is just being set up there. While they do that, I'll just give a quick introduction. I will need that, yes. A quick introduction to myself. My name is Parry. I've been in the Lean world probably about 20 years now, when it was really coming to the West from Toyota. I met a number of people early on, and I think it's really important that you acknowledge some of the early pioneers of Lean, because we all stand on the mountains, on the shoulders of giants, rather, and we see further. And that's the same for every generation. So one of the first slides I'll be putting up in a moment. I think it's ready now. Is this ready? Is this mic working? Yes, it is. Okay. So as I said, acknowledging people that have led to one's career and information is always important. So I make no apologies for starting my next slide with some acknowledgements. Also, I would recommend that you read some of these that are up in the presentation. The presentation will be made available to you this evening, so you don't need to take notes. Okay, let's get into this. Now I'm on track. All right. Firstly, I want to say thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me to come along. I think it was because I was at a presentation, I think it was in Krakow last year, and I said a phrase which they caught on to, which was, all businesses have costs, but waste is optional. And they said, oh, we've got this optional conference. So I think that was the whole basis of deciding to bring me along. So they said, will you come along and talk more about this waste stuff? Well, I said, well, I'd rather talk about the value. The waste is what we want to get rid of. And he said, okay, but can you make it a bit more interesting about waste and value? I said, fine, I'll see what I can do. So that's why I'm here. I've been here 2 days already. I came 2 days early. One, to make sure that I got here, and also to look around Budapest. This is my first time in Hungary, and I'm really enjoying it. I've had a whistle-stop tour of the city. I've been everywhere. Across the Danube a couple of times, up to the castle, the museums, the basilicas, everything. So I'm sightseeing overdose at the moment. So it's nice to come here to relax a little bit. But it's been a pleasure. It's a wonderful city, and there's plenty more to see, I'm sure. Okay, here are some useful references. These are probably useful for this presentation that I'm going to be talking about, which is how do you design the world of work around Lean principles, and how do you design the world of work to eliminate errors, where errors and seeking of errors is seen as a core competency. It's not a bad thing to find errors and surface them. In fact, you get a lot of kudos for doing that, which is totally the opposite to most organizations. They want to look at success, success, success all the time and keep it looking green, make it look wonderful. Well, actually, we want to look at where the mess is. Why? Because that's where the that's where the money is, that is where the ingenuity is, and that is where the creativity resides. It's in the mess. So, Adaptive Enterprise by Stephen Heichel is a really good book. It's about how do we create adaptive organizations, and that led on to my book called Sense and Respond, which really talks about how do we make adaptive organizations using lean thinking. So this is at the organizational level. It's not just about waste. It's about a strategy about how we go to market, how we beat the pants off the competition. Instead of fighting each other internally, we fight the competition. That's one tip for today. I think the systems thinking one by Garadegi is fabulous. Taiichi Ono, even there's a touch of John Seddon in there. Understanding Variation, that is a must book. If you need to read any here, read that one about variation. Because if there's anything that fools all managers is signals and noise being mixed up. They often confuse the noise in measurement and in reports for signals, and they take inappropriate action. That is fundamentally the most important theory that management need to learn. And we'll see a little bit about that today. Service quality, this is talking about the psychology of a lean or an agile environment. It is the psychology and the way we work with people that we get high levels of performance. And then if you want to look at other forms of measurement, Hoshinkanri by Tom Jackson. Okay, so that's giving you some of the roots. I can relax and move on. So what is lean? Well, as it says, lean and agile is not about doing more for less. It's about doing more with less. Less stress, less rework, less errors, less outages, less breakdowns, less attrition, and less crying in some cases. I remember a number of years ago when I was working at Fujitsu, we introduced a lean there, and there was this young lady who adopted it very quickly, and she fought against the old management system and eventually won. I remember going up to her one day, I said to her, has lean worked in your part of the business? And she said, yes, absolutely. I said, well, being a good lean leader, so-called, I said, well, what's the evidence? And then she floored me. What she said, well, the evidence is this. When I go home now, I don't cry anymore. And that fundamentally gets to the heart of willing contribution about what we're talking about. Okay, we were separating random events that were happening in the organization from what people could actually do. Because managers were attributing random events to people and then blaming people and telling them they failed and trying to get them to try harder when most of these things were completely out of control. But that's what lean thinking does. It allows you to see the reality. We talk in lean about learning to see. This is what we mean. Learning to see what is down to the people and learning to see what is down to the system that we've created around them. And you know what? About 90% is around the system that affects the performance of the people. So this is really what today's talk is really about. So, in terms of designing the business to eliminate waste and errors and create long-term profitability, that Ben Schneider research there talks about certain types of psychological profile in an organization that is a massive indicator for long-term profitability. I don't need to go into the research for that. You can do that yourself. The reference is there. What does that mean? Is the way that you behave towards people within an organization has a big indicator of your long-term profitability. And funnily enough, the profile that he suggests, he's not from a lean world, he's from the world of psychology. The profile he suggests is very similar to the profile you get from lean and agile organizations. That's why it works. It doesn't work necessarily because it's lean and agile. It works because of our fundamental approach to people and our belief in people to self-organize, to take control of their lives, to actually start making decisions instead of being command and controlled. If you're in software, you cannot command and control brilliant code. It emerges when the conditions are right. And it's no coincidence that those types of organizations lead to long-term profitability. I have a saying, which is lean and agile is about three things: people, people, people. But how do we create a world in which they can be people, where they can be human beings instead of human doings, where we get the willing contribution, where they'll spend more time at work, even if you don't pay them, because they love it. They're appreciated. The biggest waste in lean and agile is the waste in human potential. So how do we design that out? Basically, we create structures and processes and ways of working for identifying all the problems. To become successful, we actually look at the things that cause us to fail, and we look them in the face. We face them, we address the challenges, we experiment, we fail, we get up, we move on. That is how we move forward. So how do you create a workplace like that? 4 things. And these 4 things I'm going to repeat over and over. How you see the work. In Lean, we talk about learning to see. Well, it's not just about learning to see waste, which is an important one. It's about learning to see what the world of work is. Is it a load of silos, or is it an end-to-end business that we need to collaborate? That's another way of seeing. Our whole approach to the way that we see the work dictates how we then want to measure the work. If we see it as silos, a vertical organization, we will measure the verticals. When in fact the world of Lean is the whole system, how it all works together, how we collaborate to create outcomes for our customer that make us successful, to co-create with our customer, to continually deliver new forms of value to our customer. That's a different mindset. But you've got to see the world of work differently. You've got to measure it differently. And you're lucky because I'm going to talk about those today, or what I've learned about those. How do you structure the work? If you structure your work into silos and keep people in there and just say you just do that piece of work as fast as you can, what I call the busy, busy, bang, bang work, then you're not going to get collaboration. You're not going to get joined up business. You're not going to get a human enterprise. You certainly won't get a business enterprise. So we get into the heart of Lean. And we don't like talking about these things, usually, because we like talking about the business things. What's the costs? Well, in Lean and Agile, the costs drop. What about employee satisfaction? It goes through the roof, not through the floor. What about our sales? They increase because we got rid of all the errors. Everything on the dial increases. In fact, I cannot, from a capitalist point of view, understand why any organization would not want to adopt this. It makes economic sense. But that's not the way that most organizations are designed. They're designed not to make sense, to divide and conquer in many cases. So how do we put it together? That's how we structure the work. And then, how do you develop the workforce? How do you develop a workforce that has traditionally worked in a silo? Only meeting my local numbers, only doing what my manager says, and ignore the managers either side of me, because they are not my direct manager. How do you work with people that have virtually been institutionalized into that way of working? When I go into organizations, most people say, you'll never change this organization. It's change resistant. It's command and control all the way down. And you'd be surprised when people can see a way out. You don't have to show a big way out. Just open the door a little bit. They'll force it open. Trust the people. The people will come forward and take responsibility. But doing that can be fearful for management. So how do we do that without scaring the children? All right. So in Lean, we're trying to deconstruct the world. We're trying to deconstruct the traditional command and control to more to listen and adapt. This is what we're fundamentally doing. We need to measure the work, visualize the work, structure the work, develop the workforce, and create purposeful work. People who will get up and come to work early, not press snooze for the 50th time. You know, for some people in some organizations, the greatest challenge all day is getting out of bed. Well, let's make it more challenging in a rewarding way. We prevent people displaying choice, freedom, and the power to do what matters for the business, the customers, and themselves because of the constraints that we put in place. Badly designed work, badly designed measures. All of that leads to politics. Defending one's turf, fighting each other instead of fighting the competition. So we want to cut all of that because all of that red tape, it comes from the fear and blame. Oh, we better not do that. I'll get told off. I have to hit this goal. I hit the costs at all costs. Doesn't matter if it ruins the business. I reduced the cost and that was the target. So it's how do we create a world where we can cut all those red tape elements? I'm going to go through the rest of the presentation on these themes. 4 sections. But I must remind you, they are not separate. They are integrated. And one of the hardest things I ever find when I'm talking to people, either new to Lean or even been with Lean for a while, or an organization that wants to adopt it, they're looking for that one little thing. And it's not, it's a complete system. Agile and Lean is a complete system. But in order to talk about it, we can't talk in parallel. In this case, 4 lines of parallel conversation. We have to talk it one by one. So it gives the impression that it's linear. It is not. It's fully integrated. So I'm going to have a linear conversation, and keep in mind that this is an integrated conversation. So the first linearity is measuring the work. I really want to bring some ideas on how Lean approaches measurement of work and how you might think about measuring work back in your workplace. Also, seeing the work. This is seeing the work end to end, yes, but visualizing the work. One thing I like about Lean, Agile, Kanban, and even the presentations over there is the visualization. It's seeing it all together. That gives it context. That removes a lot of ambiguity. And that gives us a backdrop in which we can have conversations with each other instead of battles over little things. Let's see the big picture. Lean and Agile is not just about the big picture. Okay, most people think they can see the big picture, but Lean and Agile will show you a wall to hang it on. That's how big that goes. So, seeing the work is one thing, and I will illustrate some visualization methods. Structuring the work. Today, I'm focusing on how do we structure the work around failure and assigning responsibilities for those failures. That's intriguing. And it's very simple, as I will show you. Also about developing the workforce. I'm going to ask this audience, hands up if you've been on an A3 course. Anybody been on an A3 course? Right, okay. Hands up if you are currently using an A3. 1, great. Let me be absolutely clear. A3 is the language of Lean. A3 is the discipline for critical thinking, looking for evidence, experimentation. If you take nothing away from my presentation today, other than book yourself on an A3 course and make sure you are coached for the next 6 months, then you might understand it. You can't understand it by just going on a course. You have to be coached because they're changing your worldview. It is the language of Lean. It also works wonderful in Agile. It's the same thinking. And I'll show you the sorts of questions that you can ask each other when you start understanding Lean thinking from an A3 perspective. All of that creates an engaging, learning, leading, and improving environment. That is Lean management. That's what we're there to set up. If you're a manager, hands up who's managing people in here. Okay, you create the environment. The biggest excuse managers have is say, well, that's okay, but the environment around me doesn't work like that. I said, that's an excuse. Work within your span of control. And pretend you own the whole organization. You can't do megalomania on a small scale. Remember that. You have to start somewhere. Start within your own span of control. All right, measurement. I'm going to have this little logo in the bottom so that we know what subject we're talking about. Measurement. Now, I usually ask this when there's a lot of CEOs or CFOs or CIOs in an audience, and a lot of them get it wrong, surprisingly. So I'm going to ask you a very simple question here. If you were going to engage a company, it might be to write a big piece of software, do some IT, supply you with sandwiches. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. And you've asked for an SLA, a performance level of 90%. All right, 90%. You say, you must guarantee delivery at 90% or achieve this SLA of 90%. All right, you've got two companies, company blue and company purple. Now think carefully because some of you are going to get this wrong. Don't worry, this isn't ritual humiliation that I'm going to go through with you, so don't worry about that. I just want you to think carefully about which company you are going to employ. The information is up on the board. Are you going to employ the blue company or the purple company? Hands up if you will award the contract to the purple company. Hands up. Okay. Hands down. Hands up if you would award it to the blue company. Right. Hands down. Hands up. Both hands up if you didn't know either. Right, that's good. See, that's a good, covers everybody. All right, so, well, the answer, hang on. Who did the blue company? Hands up. You, sir. Why did you choose the blue company?
Because they've got more to prove. They've got more options to improve where they are. Purple company, how do you go there?
Wow, that's an interesting. That is, I don't quite know what to make of that. So you're employing a company that has a lot more improvement potential. Okay, and what would their SLA be if they improved? Sorry? But you only want 90%, and they could achieve 90% better, is what you said. So that answer, I'll be honest with you, has completely thrown me, so I need to work this out. So we got blue company because blue has a lot of variation within its performance, so he's choosing blue company because it has a lot more improvement opportunities. However, its average will still be 90%. Okay? So you're going to take, in your case, you are willing to take a company that performs worse than the other company because they have more potential to improve. Okay, great. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that point of view. I would probably choose the purple one, because they're already good. And what I would want to do with the purple one is saying, right, I want to move the SLA up. It is easier for the one in purple because their work is consistent around the mean. They have less variability. If I want to improve the performance, and the measure of performance goes from 90 to 95 or above, it's easier to move all of that. There's less noise in the system. So those of you who voted for the purple one, they are the ones that are most effective within their business. They have less variation. What causes variation? More often, errors. Errors. What causes errors in the blue is sometimes an error causes it to be late. Sometimes you can have positive errors that come up here. But the problem is that is an error of randomness. What you want is predictability. And you get predictability when you remove all the errors. And this is what this presentation is about. So one big tip, if you're measuring your business going forward on any SLAs, even on your staff if you're measuring people, don't measure them on averages. Okay? Measure them on the range as well as the average. Why? Because as we can see, one company needs to improve massively more than the other, yet the average is the same, which is your point, which we can agree. But I wouldn't have employed that company. But we agree on the point. All right? So if I just measure averages, it's like saying, if I put my left foot in liquid nitrogen and my right foot in hot lava, on average, I should feel comfortable. It is the extremes that are painful. If I want consistent service from you, delivering 80% sometime and 100% sometime is going to freak me out. Imagine my staffing. Imagine my delivery dates. Imagine anything that you can put up. If that's the amount of variability, it's unmanageable. Errors will occur. So reducing my variability is important. So any average without the range just throws away any potential for improvement. And when we are working on errors, that range is critical, because that's what we want to work on, as we will show. All right. This is an SLA from a large company. It happens to be application support, end user support. And what they said is, look, we get him working, and we have an SLA, or SLA4, which is a medium priority, which means we have a mean time to process from start to finish of 140 hours. Well, let's have a look at this. The mean time actually is 47 hours, and the mean is just here. There is the target. But the range can actually extend up to a lot more, okay? Up to 242 hours, there it is. But when we look at the data, there's some even worse than that. So that's what we call a control chart, which is turning the bell curve on its side and stretching it out. Now, their SLA and their target is to maintain work below 140 hours. And they're achieving it. They're blowing it away, 47. Now, you will notice there are about 3,000 cases in there. The ones that are red, okay, most of those can be prevented. And if you notice, they're small. But they're being counted against my average. So what's going to happen to my average? It's going to be low. So all that red stuff is preventable work. My application won't open. All those sorts of things. What would happen if I took those errors out? That is waste. It should not be happening to our user, but our applications are causing the problem for the user, and we are fixing it really, really quickly. And we are fixing it within 140 hours, but it's keeping our time down. What incentive do I have now to go away and take that out? What's going to happen to my average? It's going to go up. And I'm likely to blow my SLA because I'm taking work out. So the measurement system is keeping waste in. It's institutionalizing the waste. It's even rewarding people for institutionalizing the waste. This is what I call the busy, busy, bang, bang stuff. We just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, and we find better ways of processing it faster. Cheaper, neater, faster waste. It's the dumbest thing on the planet. It's cost. Our application still stays crappy, and our users still call in. Waste. By our measurement system. It's really, really easy. If you want to fundamentally change the customer experience and reduce your costs, change your measurement system. But you have to change what you reward people for, because you're rewarding people for that. You're rewarding people for keeping the waste going. You give them gold medals for it. You institutionalize your own waste. It gets worse. What I would like you to do, that you can take this home with you, you can write this down, you can take a photograph of it if you like. This is in the Sense Respond book. How do we start understanding what the measurement system should be? Well, basically, let's have a look at, does that measure matter to my customer? Does it really, really matter? And don't forget, averages don't matter, because I was burnt to death or I was frozen to death. And you can't say to me, on average, you should be okay. All right? As a customer. All right? You want to feel comfortable every time, wherever you are. So averages don't count. Does it matter to the customer? Yes or no? And is this measure functional or end-to-end? Which simply means there's only one part of my business uses that measure, another part of my business uses another measure, so now there's not even an alignment between our measurement system. All right? So we've fragmented it. And then we complain, we get silo thinking. Well, you've designed it that way. So we need to have measurements end-to-end that we're all pointing to, and they better matter to the customer. So in theory, we should be up in the top right quadrant. Yeah? Agreed. Anybody agree we should be anywhere else? Or anybody say we should be anywhere else? Hands up. Hands up if you agree we should be in here. Yes? Okay, you're still with me. Right. This is the ITIL, ITSM measurement, straight lifted from the book. Now, what does this tell you about your measurement system directing your people to what matters to the customer and have collaboration end to end? It tells you what you think. Your measurement system reveals what you think. That's why you can never fool a lean thinker. He just asks you what you measure, and that'll tell you whether you think lean or not. All right? Lean is not about making the wrong stuff go faster and cheaper. Yes, you can do that, but you're going in the opposite direction. Lean is taking us in a very different direction. This is applications and IT. I'm using those ones today to keep consistent. But it could be healthcare, it could be call centers, it could be anything. This group of people, I sat down with 12 people from this organization and I asked them to map it. I had the same conversation I just did with you. And they put them in the top and they said, see, ignore the colors of the Post-its. They said, look, all our measures are end-to-end and they matter to a customer. This is application, support, and IT. And this, I happen to say, is in the police force. Okay? But the police force was saying, you're not responsive enough. And they said, oh, yes, we are. Look, they matter to the customer. And by the way, all these measures are green. We're achieving them. And then they turned around to me, making me feel hot under the collar. They said, so, Stephen, all our measures are up there and they're all green. Why are you here? And I said, oh, that's very interesting. You must be very good. A week later, having taken them out to work with police officers to look at how the IT and the applications were helping them do what the police are supposed to do. You know what they're supposed to do. All right? They came back. It's the same team, same measurement. And something quite remarkable had happened. They got really good handwriting. No, what had happened was their perspective had changed. They realized that those internal measures had nothing to do with the customer, yet they were busily trying to go after it. They realized they weren't creating value. It was busy, busy, bang, bang work. They were serving the measures, not servicing the public, the police force, or themselves, serving the numbers. And they were achieving them very well. And therefore, why should they change? So now, let me ask you. You need to introduce Lean or Agile into an organization, and your team thinks like that. And they've got the data to prove that they're doing it right. Then all your work is ahead of you. Thinking like that, then the major part of your work is behind you, because we can now talk about how do we shift it. Really, really important. Remember, nothing has changed in the real world except their perception of what they do in their made-up world, which had nothing to do with the customers. This is the same graph, same measurement, rather, but I'm mapping something different here. Let me tell you what I'm mapping. I am mapping the management pain. This is what keeps managers up at night. These are the beloved pain points. You all do this when you do a project. Let's map all the pain points. And then let's design the product, the application, the service, the business to remove the pain points. Well, that's all very well if they're the right pain points. But very often we don't actually put them into a graph like this, because most of the pain points do not matter to their customers and they're functional. And in lean terms, it's waste pain. We get guys building applications to fix that pain. It doesn't do anything for the real-world customer. It keeps going. It keeps going. It keeps going and has done for the last 50 or 60 years. When are we going to stop? Okay, another measurement system. You can find some of this stuff online on my website, which will be referenced in this, lots of examples. All work that comes in to a business, particularly high volumes of work, you need to separate them. This is another form of measurement, and I found this very useful. It's about looking at the nature of the work that comes into the business. This is work that comes in. The customer says, look, there's nothing wrong, but can you give me an application that's able to do this booking online or something? Or can you order me a new PC? Can you book me a holiday? Whatever it is. It's a positive thing I need to be doing. So you need to optimize that. That delivers the customer purpose. There's other demand that comes into organizations that you currently do not support, but there are opportunities to provide support to. All right? Massive amounts of information comes in like that. Customer says, do you do A, B, and C? And they say, no, it's not on our support list, but we can give you X, Y, and Z. We've now thrown away our opportunity to create something new. In a lean world, we capture A, B, and C. And then we say, we can't get the resources to do that. Wouldn't it be nice? It would be nice, but we've got all the busy, busy, bang, bang stuff to do, so we can't get to it. So where does the busy, busy, bang, bang stuff come? All the things that go wrong that come back in. As we saw in IT, the whole incident management is complete waste. Now, I'm not saying you don't need incident management. When it's broken, you need to fix it. But that's only half the job. Then you need to stop it breaking again. Start fixing the road instead of fixing the tires. So that's the amount of demand that comes in where we've delivered unfit products. That's coming back in from the customer. There's stuff that comes in from your customer that's caused by other organizations. And if you're in IT, it's probably Microsoft causing it. But they're coming to you to fix it. Don't get me on Microsoft now. We haven't got that much time. Okay? Absolute tides of waste work because of bad code. Yet some industries make money on that. That's okay. But if you're producing the code, I'm making money on it, I think that's a problem. All right. And I'm going to keep on the IT one. I want to keep it consistent. This is application support. There's the core profile. 53% of the incoming work was caused by the applications not working or bad configuration. It certainly was not the customer's fault. Yet they put that in the end-to-end measurement that we saw earlier on. So they thought everything was fine. They were hitting their targets. They weren't classifying the nature of the work as being removable. It was just another bunch of work. We get more people in. Now remember that O stuff. We didn't have enough people to go and do that stuff because we're spending it on the R. We're spending it on the R stuff, the repeated errors and mistakes we are having to redo, rework. That is taking up all the resources we should be spending on the opportunities for new things the customer needs, but we say we can't do that because we are too busy meeting our busy, busy, bang, bang targets. How absurd. I've seen companies reduce that by as much as 80%. You never get rid of it all, but there's a massive amount. So this compass is in there. I won't go through it, it's obvious. If you're an operations manager, create value for customers by optimizing the end-to-end, opportunities to create new value, remove the causes of bad customer experience. This works in any organization, not just IT. Eliminated the errors caused by other organizations. So, measuring the work, seeing the work. This should be a little quicker. Now I've shifted your perspective of how much waste really is. How do we visualize the work in order for us and our staff to get to it, to remove it? That's what I want to take now. And we have to visualize it. Okay, a visual management. There's a big picture, visual management system. Very typical. They're all different, by the way, because all businesses are different. You have different value. But the principles are the same. What we're seeing in here is that's the end-to-end business. These are the main processes in that end-to-end business. These are measures of the total outcome of the end-to-end business. We are measuring it horizontally, not vertically. We're looking at work, how it flows end to end, where backlogs are, where errors are, in order to meet the management targets up there. The management targets are devolved down into what needs to happen within the phase to move the work forward and eliminate errors. We're going for flow. So let me just explore that as we go forward. The traditional approach, we got functions, 1 to however many functions. They say, look at the costs. Each function comes up with its own solution. It has its own meeting, its own budget, its own target. So it looks internally at its own function. All right? They do not collaborate in getting solutions end-to-end. They collaborate on functional. The end-to-end service delivery should be nice and steady with no variation. But what happens is each of these functions puts in their own solution, and they make it more and more lumpy. What happens to the output? It goes all over the place. All over the place. So, we need to move from vertical management to horizontal management, because vertical management, the silo, works this way, this way, this way. Lean works this way, and you'll note at every point there's a cross-purpose. There's a cross-purpose between the functional measure and the end-to-end measure at every single stage. If you get a survey from your business saying, how is your business done? You probably just look at your function. I met my SLAs. It's okay. Ooh, look at Joe. He's got some catching up to do. I better go and find out how I can help Joe. Absolutely not. I have to protect my budget. I'm not spending it to help him. Fight the competition, not fight yourself. You think you don't fight the competition. Sorry, you don't think you fight each other internally. But you do. Every day you look at one of these charts. You don't look out for each other. You do not collaborate. You don't say to, look, function 3 is really, it's gone terrible. What can we do to help? In the senior management meeting, they all go round the table talking to the senior manager, all with their laptops open until it comes to your time to talk. You put it down, and guess how many people are having the meeting? Just you and the senior manager. All the rest are typing away. Goodness knows what. But as soon as they get something that might affect them, they stop. And then, oh, he asked Joe that. Oh, and he's now changing his presentation because his term is next to come. Instead of putting this stuff away and saying, which one is the worst and what can we put our collective brains together to solve? Because the experience we've got in the room, we should be able to fix things. How do we move stuff between us? You don't get that. Now I'm starting to explain how it works in the lean world. The operational reviews are different. The measurements are different. The purpose is different. We need to move from vertical to horizontal management. That was the end-to-end time in that process. You can see. All right, this was the work at different stages, all blocked up. Why? Because we had a prioritization system which says, drop that for now, this is more important. Drop that for now, and we work up loads and loads of backlog. Backlog is the killer. Backlog is the waste. A really neat trick that I learned many years ago, I was asked by a manager. He said, Stephen, look at the backlogs you've got in this system. And I said, yeah, I know, but we're working them through. We're working the priority ones, then we're doing the priority twos. And he said, that's the problem. Is the prioritization is a symptom of the disease you're trying to cure. I went, oh, the prioritization symptom. I said, I don't understand. Let me show you, he said. And sure enough, it was. The more prioritization I had, the bigger the backlog. Because things took longer to wait. And then I have to pick it up, then I have to rework. Oh, that's hard and difficult. I put it down, half do. All right, we're chopping and changing. More busy, busy, bang, bang stuff. So working, and the measurement that he gave me actually says, if you could stop all new work coming in today, how long would it take to clear your backlog? And I said, 2 years. 18 months, 2 years. Right, so let's get serious. You've got 18 months of 2 years' work in backlog on top of what you're going to get in today. When are you going to do that? But that is a symptom of the way it was designed. I was trying my best as a busy, busy, bang, bang manager to get more bangs for the buck. And I did. And I had more backlog. And I really cheesed off employees as well as customers. So moving the work. We need it end-to-end. So measuring it, end-to-end, rework WIP. WIP, you can see, this is where it was. How do we help him? Also, we need to surface the waste. Which part of the department in the value stream is causing me to stop work? It was done days ago upstream. It's now here. The information is missing. The things weren't ordered. I don't have the resource. Whatever it is, there's 100 excuses. And what do? We leave that piece of work, and then we pick up something else, add into my backlog. It never gets fixed. And then we usually get somebody who looks at the backlog and says, well, these are all the errors, and usually comes up with a program to get them out. What a waste of time. Because you never do it. You have a central team looking at everybody's mistakes, trying to come up with things to improve the business, because you've centralized improvement. It's everybody's job. It's everybody's job. When I get a piece of waste from you into my department, I call you now. I fix it now. I don't put it into this bit for some other person to do a prioritization, then come have a chat with you, sometimes maybe never. I do it now. My job is now. And I stop it until that, because in Lean, I have total respect that you want your work to have good quality. And I want to feed that back one-to-one. Sorry if I'm looking at you rather intently. All right? Because it is personal. It doesn't matter about this because you did this. But I'm not blaming you. I thought you'd like to know. And you say, okay, we're having a conversation. All right. I've done that with 5 others. Oh, well, perhaps you could do those. And it's done. How many reports? None. Collaboration, you're in a different department. But we don't do that. Stick to your busy, busy, bang, bang work. Don't talk to other people. Mustn't achieve somebody else's goals. They've got their own busy, busy, bang, bang targets to meet. Okay? So surfacing the problems is really important. But surfacing errors in another department has to be culturally sensitive. Respect for people means that you can tell them when they're doing things wrong without being beaten up, without an investment in egos. But the conversation is, how do I change it? That's very good. Had one guy in a very big system once where he was releasing lots of work into the business, lots of things that needed to be, there was lots of code needed to be written, lots of stuff being pushed out. And we introduced this, reported back to where the error occurred. And the guy that was doing the planning on the first day, halfway through the first day, said, stop, I'm getting all my work back. I can't get my work done. Because all the errors were coming back to him. He'd never seen before. He wanted them to stop that so he could keep turning out the errors, which was illogical. So then we said, okay, let's have a look at why you're creating these errors. So you need to get the rework list down and the WIP, and we get velocity. When you get velocity, you'll get reduction in the end-to-end time. These are things that you measure. All right? This is not a management board. This is a staff board. Managers are not allowed in this meeting. This is the staff. Error prevention activities, error detection, income and outcome, end-to-end. And we need to change our mind in the light of evidence, not be dogmatic about that. Evidence tells you whether it's working or not. And changing your mind is one thing. Seeing the work, structuring the work. This is fundamentally the most important part of my presentation, except the one after that. You don't fall over mountains. It's the pebbles. And I'm saying the pebbles are the errors. Okay? An error is anything that affects the customer or the ability of your staff to work. Notice I'm not talking about waste. I've shifted it to errors. Errors cause all forms of waste, so stamp on them. Have a regime you set in error traps. I'll move past that quite quickly. It's in the presentation. It's a classification system. This is the most important slide. You make your frontline staff underneath your first line manager or supervisor responsible for errors of flow. Anything that causes a delay, anything that causes error, rework, that they need to work on now. So you've got customer outcomes. The E is for errors. All right, loads of errors coming through my business process. Frontline staff are responsible for spotting and eradicating those errors, and they're usually caused by each other. And they're working end-to-end. They have end-to-end meetings. They don't have functional meetings. And they collaborate. And they collaborate in front of the board. That's what we gold staff on. Rework, cost of delay, unclean work, non-standard, big batches of work. The manager, all right, if the guys ultimately get to a point of they've optimized it, but it's still not producing enough, you then need to invest in automation, new skills, new resources. That's the senior man, that's the next layer of management. The senior management at the top, they're looking at different types of errors. Errors of, are we in the right market? Are we delivering the right products to our customers? Same structure, but the errors are different. You assign different forms of errors to different people within the organization because they are best placed to find them and sort them out. Don't put them up at the top to be sorted. This calls for a huge degree of trust. But this doesn't stop senior management coming down and talking to frontline management about them. That's going to the Gemba walk. It's a different story. It's really critical. Assign certain classes of errors to different parts of the organization. Last part of my presentation, which is probably the most, because this leads to competency. I mentioned the A3 stuff earlier on. If you're a manager, and some of you are, or if you work for managers, which probably most of you do, I do, it's called my wife. If you want to have a department where people are free to say, this has gone wrong, I've made a mistake. If you can't say I made a mistake in an organization, then you might have made a mistake in working for that organization. You're not going to get things fixed unless you can say there's an error. Errors are between you and success. And you have to have conversations for surfacing the errors. There are thousands of them. It's a target-rich environment. So they say, you go to a manager, okay? So, Tom, you found this error, so where's your commitment now that you're going to fix this, by what deadline? Is that really empowering for you? You just come up with a problem, hey, I've surfaced this, there's something going on. Or the worst phrase, how many, hands up if you've heard this, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. Hands up if you've heard that. Worst phrase on the planet. Because what if you don't have a solution? Oh, I'm not going to tell him about that. Because he's going to think I'm an idiot because I've got a solution. No, he's the idiot. Because you won't have a problem, let alone a solution. You throw them underground. And these are the questions that blame people, that put people under the microscope. I got this problem, but it wasn't caused here. But now I have to deal with it. I have to work on this. Oh, well, that's fine. It's going to take you 5 minutes. Yeah, but it's 5 minutes now, 5 minutes in 5 minutes, and another 5 minutes after that. It's crazy. Working on errors costs you time, money, productivity, and you give away your future. Why did you do that? Don't involve other departments. We've got our own targets. Don't go talk to them. Better still, A3 teaches us these questions. You lead as if you have no power. You ask questions as if you can't command and control people. These are better questions. These are A3 questions, and I owe a debt of gratitude to John Shook, who wrote a book called Managing to Learn, which talks about A3. This is heavily dependent on that. But let's have a look at some of these questions. So why are we talking about this? What's the purpose? Why is it a problem? When did this problem occur, Tom? You know, what did you see? What did you make it mean? What else could it mean? Now, these are conversations of inquiry, not compliance. And we're not blaming the person. We're getting involved in a conversation about what the hell might be going on. But let me tell you one thing. You think these are questions that the managers ask their staff in a lean world. They don't. These are the questions the staff ask their managers when they're being delegated to. Notice the difference between command and control. All right, the last one. And even this can be used in a command and control. But this is the staff. So you want to give me this problem. So, okay, how long has this been going on? Who else has been involved? What is the data that you have? How reliable is that data? What's the real problem do you think is the real problem? All right? And if you're in a command and control organization, to have staff talking to you like that, they're going to be on a personal improvement plan as quick as you can do busy, busy, bang, bang work. And in some organizations we've done, that's happened until we said, hey guys, look, it's the other way around. If you want them to take work from you, at least understand what we know and don't know about this problem. Let the dog see the rabbit is an old phrase that we use. All right? And the A3 is a great structure for doing this. Leadership is an activity, not a position. Lean shifts those sorts of questioning down the hierarchy, shifts the measurement down the hierarchy, shifts responsibility for fixing certain errors down the hierarchy. Doesn't this sound like Agile? Of course it is. This is the philosophy. Enable our people with the right tools, with the right methods, with the right level of trust. It's about purpose. I talk about common purpose. Most common purpose in an organization is management teams go up to the top of the mountain. They come back like Moses with the tablet saying, this is our corporate goal. Cascade, go forth and multiply it. That's what happens, okay? Again, that top-down, as if they know. They don't. Now, it sounds like if I got a big downer on management today. I don't. They are just as victims as the rest of us. But I'm not talking to them at the moment. I'm talking to you guys. Okay? I've got another story for them. So, what I said is, look, there are at least 3 purposes. There's the employee purpose, why they come to work, the customer purpose and why they do business with you, and there's the business purpose. We have to bring those together in a common purpose, not we strive to be number one, deliver best service to our customers, and our employees are the best on the planet. Not those. That's not a common purpose. That is one purpose with 3 sections. I'm looking for a purpose statement that means all 3. This is a real purpose statement for a very large software company. What the employees wanted to do, they wanted to contribute with their skills and be fairly rewarded in a secure environment that was trusted, because it was neither secure nor trusted. So therefore, they couldn't contribute very much. They weren't challenged enough. They didn't develop and grow, which is why they went there. That was their purpose. So now, as a manager, I would devise a measurement system that would measure, am I doing that? Not am I hitting my SLAs? Am I doing that? For my customers, well, I'm delivering enterprise applications to my customer. Well, why would they do that? He'll say, look, I want to strengthen my value chain in a way that differentiates me from my competitors and provides a return on my investment. That's why they buy your stuff. They want to be better than their competition. All right, so that means we need to be innovative. We need to, all right? So we need measurements of that. The business. We provide expertise and services to enable us to produce, sell, support software by creating and running, in this case, efficient infrastructures to run their hosted applications. And we have measurements of that. So how do we get to a measurement system that's common to all of those? Quite simply, this is what they came up with. Now, any one of those 3 can say that. But understand what they say, with pride, which means we do it error-free. Relentless, we never stop improving the product. Okay? We apply our insight, which means we need continued learning for the challenging. Our ingenuity and our technologies, why? To create wealth and a secure future. You all want that. But we all achieve it by focusing on 3 different things with the same goal. That's a common purpose, and it takes a while to work it out. There's a common purpose that I worked with with a company, a large printing company, a long time ago, that was doing books for universities, and I asked what their purpose was, and it was to sell, make, sell, and distribute books. They happened to be textbooks for colleges. And after about 2 days, they came back out and said, no, our purpose is to eradicate superstition and ignorance throughout the world through the distribution of knowledge. It's a very different process to distribute books because they were locked into the book structure. It was all about the knowledge and getting that out into the world. And therefore, they could come up with different products and services to do that. This is what Lean does. Lean isn't just about taking the waste out in your organization. It's about taking the waste out in the customer's organization, creating new and better services that you've never even dreamed of. Time for change. The organization needs to consider the measurement system. Continuous improvement is not separate, as I illustrated earlier on. As soon as I got a problem, we are continually improving in our conversations. It's not a separate continuous improvement system. Continuous improvement is conversation. Leaders, they might be assigned to end-to-end, encourage fail-safe experimentation. This blame-free culture, absolutely important. You must have patience because your staff will be highly suspicious. They'll say, look, our manager is in a direct line of descendancy from Attila the Hun, and you want me to trust this guy? You know, it takes time. Management have to become trustworthy again, and that takes time. Managers have different operational reviews, visual management, coaching. Look at what the performance review is about. Look at all the errors you identified and helped remove. Let's reward them for that. So the reward system changes. Encourage staff to question. And this is the biggest one for staff, is learning to trust management. It's the hardest. There's some studies there for Oxford University, before and after. I help my organization understand what customers value because they're having conversations with them. Before, they didn't do it. Now, it's 82%. That's the management are seeing that. What other numbers are up there? 83. My data improves the quality of decision-making. It wasn't their job to get data end-to-end. Decision-making in this organization vastly improved. Eradicating errors, working on errors, making decisions to eradicate them, you make better decisions. That's what it's all about. And all of this is conversations. It's not tools. It's perspective. It's common purpose, having the right measurement system. How you see the work, how you visualize the work, how you measure the work, and how you develop your people. It's as simple as that, but it's hard work because it involves people, but creating choice, freedom, and the power to do pays back enormously. Because instead of all the managers making ill-informed decisions and choices now, people in the right place are making those decisions and choices almost as they happen. And where we need to take things up, then is a business case already set out, usually within the A3 format. Those of you who know A3 would know what I'm talking about. So that's my presentation as a whole. I've been doing a lot of talking. I'd like you maybe to do some talking now. Do you have some time for questions? That's me for now, anyway. Okay, some time for questions. Could we have is there a mic there? Could we have a mic? Just come up here. While that mic is getting there, what I suggest over the next 2 days is you are looking for ways of getting the errors. All the presentations at the heart of it are talking about errors and how do we approach them and get them out. And that's fundamentally what Lean and Agile is about. Could you just say your name?
Yeah, I'm Francesco De Grassi. I have, you went through the idea of structuring the work but in many cases when talking about measures, you made examples that I understood were to be applied on the existing structure that companies usually have by functions and such, rather than horizontal organizations.
Yes.
And I was wondering whether you could elaborate on how that works out, and if eventually you need to move to an horizontally aligned organization for that to work.
Yes, that's a good question. This question will be answered in two different ways. If you're a small organization, you don't need this sort of blame-free culture to surface errors. I would imagine an organization the size of the people in this room, pretty soon we get to know each other and we'd have relationships and we can talk to each other and we wouldn't need these sorts of formal structures, usually, not every time. But when we get above this, it becomes problematic and we have to have departments. I'm not saying we should not have the silo department in terms of a hierarchy from the top down, which says, look, I've got a team of 20 people, 2 supervisors, 1 manager, maybe a department manager, and the guy at the top. That is perfectly fine for a span of control for an activity. And I'm not saying demolish that. That is fine. What I'm saying is in our day-to-day running, when we decide what to improve within our silo, we are having a conversation end-to-end. I am using the data that that young lady has sent to me about what I need to improve. And then I'm going to check with her. So I might work within a box in terms of on the org chart, but I certainly don't think inside the box, and I certainly don't work inside the box. But I've got a line of control of accountability at the top, but I've got a one of eradicating waste and getting collaboration, which is horizontal. And if the senior management are up on their game, they would then have a measurement system and reward people that sort out problems for this department by working either side. All right? Does that answer your question? It's not getting rid of the verticals. No, you can't.
No, your answer is appropriate to my question, but I'm wondering whether there is space for moving beyond some kind of vertical structure and move towards a horizontal structure where maybe we don't have departments by function, but rather by, I don't know, service to the customer and such.
You can definitely do that. If you have the management structures and the management know and the staff understand how to work in a vertical organization, you can go straight to that. And that's probably what they're doing. But that's few and far between. 99% of the global organizations are into the silos, all right? And you're trained in a silo, all right? If you're a startup, then that's great, then all bets are off, all right? But in an organization that's very large, most organizations end up being large, then you have to find a way of moderating the worst excesses of that top-down, all right?
Thanks.
I work with organizations that want to move from one to the other, and we've got to get rid of the old one. If you're setting up on a greenfield site, it's great. Any more questions? Thank you for your question. It's a really good question. Any more questions? No? Okay, if you have questions and you're too shy to ask now, I'm around all day. So please come up to me. I'm approachable, honest. I won't bite your head off. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great conference. All the best. Bye-bye.